There's no way I can lose. There's no way. You're kind of on a whole different level than what I thought you would have been on.
I don't think that is what grants someone moral rights. So I think the analogy I would draw here is, let's take the case of someone who has suffered brain death.
If there was, and I think you may have brought it up in your opening, if there was a defined period of time that this person will stay in this state, but then be able to come out of it, would this still be something that you're okay with, or like?
But the relevant question here is, who is harmed when you pull the plug on someone like that? Is there any moral wrong happening there?
Yeah,
you said that miscarriages should be investigated, and that there would be a potential punishment for women who were found guilty of doing something that increased the risk of miscarriage, right?
Correct, yeah.
What you're saying is that in this case, the individual's bodily autonomy outweighs the right to life of this unique human organism.
What I'm saying is yes.
So if you were in a burning hospital and there was a 3-year-old on one side and there was a tray of 10 fertilized embryos on the other side.
By verdict of split decision, seeing as there's nothing else to be done here, we all know who the competitors are. We have in general the positions. We're going to open the floor for opening statements. Nonfon has 5 to 10 minutes, and depending on how much he takes, his opposition will also respond within that amount of time. So go ahead, Nonfon, give us a clear and precise summary of your position.
All right, well, mine's pretty short. I think abortion gets to the very center of morality and what we consider moral subjects. The only thing I believe can reasonably separate a moral subject, which is granted moral rights, and a moral object, which is not, is some capacity for a conscious experience. Conscious experience is the very thing that gives you your ability to be morally wronged or to suffer. Before about 22 weeks, the brain is not developed in a fetus to form a conscious experience and therefore cannot be harmed in any moral sense. This is why I believe allowing abortion before this point is not a moral wrong. The first comparison, usually drawn, is in responses to someone sleeping under anesthesia or in a coma for 9 months. The symmetry breaker here is that in all these cases, there is a moral subject we can speak of who has existed and will be harmed if prevented from being brought back. There is simply no way to harm a subject that has never existed and does not exist currently, as is the case with abortion. If you believe preventing a subject from coming into existence is immoral, then that should apply not only to abortion, but to birth control as well, or anything else that would prevent a moral subject from coming into existence. To summarize, I believe abortion should be legal prior to 22 weeks because there is no subject to speak of that is morally harmed. Past that point, I believe it should be illegal with the exception of the life of the mother.
Thank you, Nonfon. That was extremely precise. Yeah, that was a good job. Yeah,
cow,
congratulations
that was
for
insane.
that. Yeah, he's good. He's good.
He knocked it out of the park right there.
Yeah.
Okay, is it my turn?
Yeah.
So can I have 4 minutes, or do I need to speak that fast?
No, you have up to 5 minutes, David, considering your opponent did it in a record pace. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll start. So if you look at my profile picture here, this is a 21-week-old.
We cannot see your screen or your face or anything.
No, it's on the screen right there.
The profile picture
icon right here.
We can just see the... Oh, the profile picture. Yeah, we can't see the profile picture. But that is a baby, I assume. What is that? What are we looking at? I can't see. It's really small, David. Do you have a picture of it?
A week-old baby. It's the oldest. Yeah, it's no big deal. The point is it was 21-week-old, and it was born prematurely, and it is the youngest baby on Earth to ever survive. Okay. 21 weeks. Remember, my opponent says 22. So anyway, so it says, why do I support banning abortion? Well, I believe life begins at conception. And I believe that abortion is considered the willful act of killing an innocent human life inside the womb. Declaration of Independence says we have unalienable right to life. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Without this right to life, all other rights don't matter because you're dead. Some say even the 14th Amendment gives women the right to an abortion, but the wording actually says state shall not deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny it to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. When does personhood begin, I suppose, would be at question. Again, if your right to life is not protected, not much else matters. When abortion laws are enacted, abortion rates decline. The states that have these strict abortion laws have less abortions. Common sense. Some debate when abortion should be accessible or when limits should be placed on the procedure. My position is law preventing abortion should be passed with complete bans. Some of the arguments can revolve around when life begins, when is consciousness, awareness, or sentience. My question would be, when can a unique human organism be identified? To me, this is when personhood would be established. The evidence shows this is directly after the sperm and the egg combine. This is also called a zygote, and it is formed within 12 to 24 hours after the sperm penetrates the egg. From day one of egg fertilization and subsequent embryo development, every human being has a unique genetic code or DNA. Within a week of this happening, the circulatory system begins to form, and cells will become that will become the heart will start to flicker. This blood will create is unique to this human, which is different than the mother's blood. Once a life has begun, it deserves protection. One of the most vulnerable has to be a child in a womb. When does the life begin? Life, of course, begins when the sperm and the egg combine. Everybody knows this. Why do women mourn miscarriages if it's not a baby? Are they delusional? If you ask them, do they call it a baby? Do they mourn the loss of eggs during periods? Of course not. The point is there's a difference between eggs and fetuses at very early development age. A human life is the difference. All measures pro-abortion advocates consider are arbitrary. Some may call it science, but the science on this is ever-changing. When is pain felt? When is sentience? When is viability?
You have 1 minute, David. 1 minute.
These are not consistent answers. In my opinion, the only two consistent options are a unique human life begins at conception and therefore should be protected from this point on, or the unborn life or personhood doesn't actually begin until after birth, meaning everything up to the moment its head crowns should be legal to terminate the life. Only one of these sounds extreme. Therefore, I believe abortion should be completely illegal at all stages of development.
Right. Thank you very much, participants. We will now open the floor unless there are any questions or that you have for the host or for the audience or anything else, then we will get started. Do you have anything? Nonfon or David?
Nope.
You guys ready? All right. I wish both of you the best of luck and may the best man win in this scenario. So go ahead, take it away. Nonfon, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so I think the big thing you mentioned there is the creation of a unique human organism, which I can accept that at the moment of conception, there is a unique human organism that is created. But I don't think that is what grants someone moral rights. So I think the analogy I would draw here is, let's take the case of someone who has suffered brain death. Someone who has suffered brain death, but let's say parts of their brainstem are still alive, so their heart can still beat. I think some people can even breathe on their own. Are definitely a unique human organism who may in some sense even be alive. Their heart is beating. But nonetheless, I would not grant them any moral rights, because I would say they're not a person anymore. They lack the conscious experience necessary, required to suffer, or to be granted moral rights. I don't see any reason that I should care about a unique organism. There are plenty of unique organisms like bacteria that you kill every time you wash your hand. I believe what matters is the capacity to suffer or to be morally harmed. And I think the only thing that I can give you that is some type of sentience or consciousness that only comes about in the fetus at about 22 weeks.
Okay. So with your story that you told about the person who is brain dead, for example, if there was, and I think you may have brought it up in your opening, if there was a defined period of time that this person will stay in this state, but then be able to come out of it, would this still be something that you're okay with? Or like, especially if it was like a family member or a loved one, they're like, well, they're going to be in this form, and then 9 months from now, most likely almost every single time they come out of it, then I guess I see there's a pretty big difference there than just.
Well, first of all, I'm always going to say a family should have the right to keep someone who is brain dead on life support. I don't see any problem with that. They should have the right to do that. Just as if, like, you gave the example of the 21-week-old preemie. Like, if the family should always have the right to carry a baby to term, or if the baby's born early, to attempt to save that baby, right? But I think what you mentioned here is, I did bring it up in my opening statement. I would say the symmetry breaker between someone in a coma for 9 months is that that person previously existed. There is a moral subject that we can speak of who will be harmed if we don't bring them back. In the case of abortion, what we're talking about is the first time a moral subject is ever coming into existence. There is simply no subject to speak of that can be harmed because they've never existed and won't exist if you do the abortion.
I got you. So you're saying that since the person who was brain dead had an experience like in life prior to the brain dead injury or whatever, you're saying that would be a little different scenario in that case?
Well, I think if you're fully brain dead, you can never be brought back. But yeah, in all these cases, there's a moral subject who presumably wants to live and will be harmed if we don't let them.
Okay. So was your stance based on sentience then? Is that what I'm hearing?
I would say it's for the capacity to launch a conscious experience. So when all the parts of the brain are there and they can create a conscious experience.
And you're suggesting that is at 22 weeks.
Yeah, about 22 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So then you said something about the image that I had on my profile picture. You're saying before that particular child or whatever you want to call it. Actually, can we actually back up? Let's start there. So as far as abortion goes, that reminds me, because one thing that frustrates me sometimes is when we're talking about different definitions. What is like your definition for abortion?
Definition of abortion, I would say like the intentional removal of a pregnancy, something like that.
And that's whether or not the thing inside of that is alive or dead.
I mean, I guess I don't know if I would consider. I know there are cases where like a fetus can die in the womb. I don't know if that's still considered an abortion when they remove that.
Okay, but we're clarifying that we're not talking about that because legally sometimes they do call it an abortion procedure even if it's a miscarriage.
Sure. Yeah.
We're talking about when there's some sort of thing in there that has.
Sure. We'll go with like the intentional ending of a viable pregnancy.
A viable pregnancy. Okay. And that's what I was wondering, because I said willful killing of an innocent human life. Obviously, that's pretty loaded, right? I understand that. Okay. And then, so what's viable? What does that mean?
Viable meaning the pregnancy could, in theory, be carried to term, right?
Okay. So there are going to be exceptions, obviously, right? Because you say 22 weeks. We can't really make laws with some number like that. Like somebody will obviously break the record. Or what about if they could pull the fetus out of the womb and harvest it like in some sort of chamber, like in the future? Not obviously we can't do that today. Would you be okay with something like that?
What exactly do you mean? Are you talking about like an artificial womb, or are you talking about like, for example, using stem cells to an artificial womb? I would say that the family would have a right to put their baby in an artificial womb, but I would say they don't have any obligation to put a baby in an artificial womb to save its life if it's prior to 22 weeks. Because of that, I don't think there's a subject.
I'm going to cut you off there. We do have a question from the audience, all right? So how this is going to go, considering Nonfon was the previous one to speak. Nonfon, you will go first. If you answer correctly, then you will get a point added onto your scoreboard. If you answer incorrectly, then David will have an opportunity to answer. And I guess you know what that means. All right. So judges, you are not removing anybody's points at this point. They're just going to answer. If anybody gets it correct, they get a point. If they don't, nothing is removed. So the question is, Nonfon, by US law, exit signs must be one of what two colors? Yeah.
Blue or green?
Correct.
Thank God. Okay.
Okay. There you go, boys. Right. Continue your conversation.
I forget exactly where we were, but
that was a dumbass question.
We don't want any comments from
we were talking about
debaters. All right.
What were you saying?
We were talking about artificial wombs, right? So you were asking something about artificial wombs.
it's just something I was asking about. Not a huge deal. Did you have any questions for me, or I got a couple more?
I don't necessarily. I don't think I really have any questions for you, other than I guess my big question would be, what to you separates a moral subject from a moral object?
Moral subject? Are you talking about like a person?
I mean, personhood would be an example of like a moral subject. I'm asking what is the, so we have like, my can of Mountain Dew here, which we don't apply moral rights to, right? We don't really say my Mountain Dew can be morally harmed, but we would say someone like me can be morally harmed. So I'm asking, what to you is the thing that separates me or another moral subject from my bottle of Mountain Dew or a different moral object?
I mean, I guess it's some sort of you're alive, you're breathing, your heart's beating.
Alive? Okay, so here's a question. Do you consider a worm or bacteria even a moral subject? Do you give moral rights to something just because it's alive?
No, I would not say just because it's alive. No.
Sure. Okay. So what else could we look at? Whether it's alive, which we don't grant moral subject status just because something is alive. What else could be the separating things?
Well, I mean, I guess in the case of a worm, there probably is an argument that it could have value, right? Other than the fact that it's alive, there could have value or worth to itself, to like its own family members or even us humans, right?
I mean, sure, it can have value, but I think when you talk about value, like you said, it had value to us humans. What you're talking about there is basically harming humans, which you consider moral subjects, not necessarily harming the worm itself. Or I guess you said the worm's family, which maybe do you consider the worm's family moral subjects?
You could. I mean, just like any other animal, worms not necessarily much different than other animals.
So I guess here's an interesting question: what animals should we give moral rights to, and what animals shouldn't? Do you eat meat? Do you?
Well, I mean, in this particular case, we're talking about humans. We're talking about We're talking about
your stream is dying.
Whose stream?
Boss.
Don't worry, I brought them in because of the stream, but you guys continue. We have our judges here. Stella, get in here, Stella. No, it doesn't matter. Get in here, Stella.
I mean, just in general, I value human life more than I would animals or other beings, like what you're referring to.
Okay, human life. So I get, again, when you say human life, I bring up the example of brain death or someone in a persistent vegetative state, someone that is technically alive but isn't conscious. Would you say that, like, for example, Terry Shive was a big example of someone who was in a persistent vegetative state and wasn't conscious, and I think the family ended up removing her feeding tube. So I guess do you think that was a immoral decision of them?
Yeah, actually, I think it probably would be consistent with the values that I would hold. Yeah, I think that would be a really hard decision for sure for a family member to take. I'm not sure I would be able to take that step for sure, based on just in general how I feel about it.
I would absolutely agree. It was a hard decision for the family to make, and I think the family should, again, always have the right to keep their family member alive or whatever. But the relevant question here is, who is harmed when you pull the plug on someone like that? Is there any moral wrong happening there to the person who is not conscious and lacks the capacity to be conscious?
Probably not. Probably not.
So why wouldn't that same standard apply at the beginning of life, where the zygote clearly is a unique human organism, but it also does not have the capacity for a conscious experience? A zygote is brain dead. It doesn't have a brain. And prior to 22 weeks, the brain is not developed enough to form any, what I would call like a meaningful conscious experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, my position isn't, the cutoff isn't when it has a meaningful conscious experience.
Well, I'm asking why that isn't the cutoff for you, basically, because you did say,
because if you just
at the end of life, that is the cutoff.
So the main difference would be that one of them will, if you just leave it alone for the most part, I mean, there's obviously certain conditions that have to be met. One of them will be in that state of mind or whatever within a matter of months. And the other one,
Sure.
and that's why I'm saying I don't think that I could support that. I don't think that I would be able to make that decision.
Well, here's
based
the what decision are you talking about?
Like pulling the plug, for example. Like I don't.
Okay.
Like, to me, that would be a very similar situation, especially if I was told that there's a high likelihood that if we just leave him alone, the machines do their work, that he will one day wake up and become a useful member of society.
Sure.
And I don't see.
So I think we're talking about different things. So in the example that you just gave, that would be a moral subject being prevented from blocking back, whereas the situation I'm talking about is simply preventing a moral subject from ever existing. That is what I believe abortion does. If you are against the idea of preventing a moral subject from coming into existence, then I would say you'd also have to be against condoms. Condoms prevent the sperm from fertilizing the egg, which in turn prevents a moral subject from coming into existence. You'd have to be against anything that prevents a moral subject from coming into existence in the first place.
Sure. So I think if you just had sperm by itself, there's nothing that can come into existence from that, can there?
No, but I'm saying clearly a condom is preventing a moral subject from coming into existence, right? Because it's preventing sperm from reaching the egg. Well, what do you mean?
I suppose, but after the sperm reaches the egg, it's a completely different scenario. That's where the existence begins for this new life form that's about to develop or is starting development already. The sperm itself.
Sure, it can be a new life form, but we've already kind of covered that you don't really think life is the thing that matters. We don't grant moral subject status to worms or bacteria, which are both alive. Clearly, I think the big thing that matters here is the capacity for consciousness. And what you're talking about is what abortion does is prevent the zygote from ever having a conscious experience. I would say it's simply preventing a moral subject from coming into existence the same way birth control prevents a moral subject from coming into existence, the same way a condom prevents a moral subject from coming into existence. I don't believe these are two totally different scenarios.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll disagree. I do have a question for you about your 22-week situation.
Before you do that, David, we just need some clarification from both the debaters. So essentially what was said is that even with, in some cases, not in some cases, you would always be against anything that would result in pregnancy occurring if the intention was for pregnancy not to occur. So unless both individuals were understanding that they wanted to get pregnant, anything that could occur with them not intending that to happen, you would be against it. So things like condoms, things like birth control, even in some cases, recreational sex, but with a married couple or not a married couple, because it could lead to the potentiality of a baby being born. So is that your position? Just to clarify, David.
Yeah, I'll reword my position. So I have no issue with condoms preventing the egg and the sperm meeting. Once that has happened, that's where I believe that should be protected. So that would also include things like where they put the egg and the sperm together outside of the human, and then they freeze them and they do all this stuff. And then, then we give the woman the egg and the sperm and they try to and then we just throw the rest of them away. I think that those are a unique human life form that has been created that has a unique DNA that if you put it in the right conditions will grow and to become a human. So I don't know if that clarifies it or not. I would also disagree with that as well. I don't disagree with IVF in general, as long as you're not discarding the stuff you're not using.
Okay. Just to understand that, because on one side it is you would be against abortion because you acknowledge that life starts from like people having sex,
right?
And as a result, anything that could prevent that from occurring from sexual intercourse would be considered a problem. In other words, that would be the position of Nonfon. Yes, Nonfon, like clarify if that's your position, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
What did you say my position was exactly?
the idea of if you're against abortion to the extreme extent that David is, or to the extent that he is because he's anti-abortion, that inevitably you would have to be against things like condoms and birth control because they also act as a medium of preventing that birth from carrying on and being born out as intended, in quotations. Correct?
Basically. What I'm saying is, since David's position is that once the egg is in the right, or once the sperm and egg meet, it will eventually become conscious, and he thinks preventing it from becoming conscious is immoral. So I would say, by that logic, anything that prevents the creation of a conscious moral subject would in turn also have to be immoral. When I think that's clearly not the case. I don't think it's immoral to just simply prevent a subject from coming into existence.
Okay. Fair enough. Move on, guys. Next topic. Move on as you intended.
Well,
thank you.
I just had a quick follow up to the IVF thing.
Sure.
I'm sure you've
kind of conversation, but
sure. I'm sure you've heard this hypothetical before. All right. So if you were in a burning hospital and there was a 3-year-old on one side and there was a tray of 10 fertilized embryos on the other side, you can only save one. Are you saving the 10 fertilized embryos, or are you saving the 3-year-old child?
Probably if I could only save one or the other.
One or the other. Yep.
Okay, just for the sake of this conversation, I haven't thought about this ever. I don't know when this would happen, but I would say the 3-year-old probably.
So if the thing that you care about is the unique human organism, on one side we have 10 unique human organisms. On the other side, we only have one unique human organism. And the thing that you're choosing to save is the one unique human organism versus the 10 unique human organisms. Why is that?
Again, I haven't really thought about it specifically. So, I mean, if I could be guaranteed certain things about the 10 unique human organisms over here, not all of them are probably going to take. I assume if you tried to implant them in women, sometimes a lot of weird stuff happens when doctors get involved. Probably the other one has, I would say, more value. So I don't think it's an impossible decision. I would say for me, maybe not for you. Maybe you're like easy. It's the child.
I think it's a very, very easy decision because on one hand, you have 10 embryos who will not suffer at all if the building burns down. They have no conscious experience. They are not granted moral subject status. And on the one hand, you have a very clear moral subject, a 3-year-old who is conscious and walking around and babbling and who will suffer if the hospital burns. I think it's a very clear and easy decision to save the life of the 3-year-old child. But even if you shouldn't care about whether or not those 10 embryos will implant or not, because earlier you told me what you care about is that there is a unique human organism. If there's a unique human organism, that thing is granted moral subject status and it shouldn't be prevented from coming into existence. That was your position from earlier. But now we have 10 unique human organisms in a tray, and you're saying that the reason that you wouldn't want to save them is because you think they might not come into existence. What that tells me is the thing that you also implicitly care about there is the coming into existence. I think that coming into existence that we care about is not conception, as I said, that these were already fertilized embryos. The thing is conscious experience.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't consider the tray of 10 fertilized embryos burning up in the hospital. I wouldn't consider that to be an abortion, just so we're clear.
I don't think it would be an abortion, but it would be 10 unique human organisms dying, right? If the hospital burned down and those...
I think there is a legitimate argument to say, and it has been an argument proposed right now in some cases in the United States, or at least one that I remember. I don't remember the name of it, where a doctor dropped a frozen vial of an embryo or something, and the parents are trying to go back and like, this is some sort of manslaughter or murder. I mean, this is something that's being discussed right now. So I think that in your hypothetical, there could be a scenario where whoever started the fire or the hospital, it can be liable for that. I mean, you just said choose one or the other. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot that goes into something like this. I would say I value the 3-year-old more, but that doesn't mean there's zero value where we should just discard it and throw it in a fire on the other 10. You told me to choose one or the other, and I did. That's all I'm saying.
Sure.
So I would say
agree.
There is value to the 10 as well. But
I
that
don't think
doesn't
there's
mean
zero
that-
value to the tin. But I think the only reason the tin has value is because the family cares about it, right? Whoever started the fire would probably be some type of civilly liable for the damage they caused to the family's property. I would say that the fertilized embryos are more or less the family's property. They aren't moral subjects. The only reason they have value is because another moral subject cares about them. The same way my Mountain Dew bottle can't be harmed in itself, but if you came over and knocked over my Mountain Dew bottle, I would be very upset because you have harmed me through knocking over my Mountain Dew. The same thing is true of the fertilized embryos. But just because they have value to another moral subject doesn't make them a moral subject themselves. The same way my Mountain Dew bottle, like I said, can't be harmed. The 10 frozen embryos can't be harmed in any way. I would say, therefore, it's a very clear choice to save the 3-year-old child who is a moral subject, while the 10 fertilized embryos are not moral subjects.
There you go. So, and I think the only thing that I would rebut to that, and then I don't know if you're okay with, I got a quick question for you, is that just because that 10 subjects or whatever doesn't value to somebody else, it values to the parents, doesn't mean they shouldn't be protected or the law shouldn't protect them. For example, because a lot of the women that go get abortions are choosing to do that to themselves. So, I mean, that my argument is that sometimes we have to care for other people when their parents won't. In this particular case, their mothers are choosing this. So my argument is that sometimes the state needs to step in and protect the most vulnerable, as I said in my opening statement, and I think that would extend to a 1-day-old zygote or whatever you want to call it. So
yeah, I
maybe
think
to your Mountain Dew, maybe someday your Mountain Dew will be that. I don't think so. That doesn't make sense to me. But,
I think the law should apply to persons. The law should only apply to moral subjects. The reason we protect things like property is because they have value to moral subjects. I think these fertilized embryos are much more analogous to the property of the parents than the child of a parent. That's why that I think people can be sued that if they mess up these IVF implantations, but I think it's because it's the property of the parent. The same way this Mountain Dew is the property of me. And if you took it away from me, I'd be upset. I'd be morally aggrieved. But the Mountain Dew itself wouldn't be morally aggrieved. The same way the 10 embryos would not be morally aggrieved if you let the hospital burn them up. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm ready to move on if that's okay. I want to know, do you support a law that if another person kills a mother who is pregnant before 22 weeks, do you support a law saying that this should be double homicide or manslaughter, or kind of understand what the question is?
Yeah, before 22 weeks, I don't think it should be double homicide. After 22 weeks, I would say, yeah, it should be double homicide.
Okay. Pretty consistent. You don't support that. Killing of an unborn child at any stage of development is murder in the first degree, second degree, or manslaughter in 38 states. You're saying you disagree with those laws in those 38 states?
Yeah, I would
assuming
say
that they're real, which they are.
Prior to 22 weeks, I don't think it's a person. I don't think the law should apply to them. I don't think it should be double homicide. After 22 weeks, it'd probably be a person, and it should be considered double homicide. Yeah.
All right. Consistent. There we go. That wasn't my main question. That was just a question I had, because some people, they're like, of course that's double homicide. Okay. There you go. Let's see. So after 22 weeks, do you believe this, if a woman goes out of her way to get an abortion, even though it's against the law, that she should be subject to the same laws as anybody else?
Basically, yeah. I think abortion should be illegal, and there should be probably some type of punishment for trying to get one outside the law. Yeah.
For the woman or for the doctor?
For the woman, probably, yeah. Unless there's some type of circumstances where the woman didn't really have a clear choice. But yeah, mitigating factors. But that's what the court system is here to solve. Yeah.
Let's see. I think some of this stuff you're just moving along, so we don't even have to go through some of that. I thought you would need more convincing that this thing would need to be protected, but you don't. So I don't know. So I think I went through most of my notes. Do you have?
Yeah. Well, here's a question for you. Do you believe that women should be criminally prosecuted for trying to get an abortion?
Yeah, so I think that if a woman was to get an abortion, if there was a law against it, there should definitely be some sort of penalty. Similar to if you hire a hitman to kill your husband or something like that. The doctor should be the one that probably gets the harshest penalty there because he's the one actually doing the act. The woman should probably get some sort of accessory or whatever they would call that. If she still goes through with it, even though it's against the law, through her own methods, whether it's take certain drugs or go, to some sketchy what do they call it? Alleyway or something. Then yeah, she should definitely.
So do you believe in any exceptions for either children or rape or incest?
I don't know. I don't have those.
Okay.
I don't think that those change the value of the embryo or the fetus or the baby, the conditions that brought it into existence. I don't believe.
Sure, I would agree. After 22 weeks, of course. So here's an interesting question.
Guys, you have a. Okay, you're gonna have. Can you remember it after a direct question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Do you want to write it down? You've got you.
I have my notes up. I can write it down. But
okay, write it down. You got 10 seconds to write it down.
What am I writing down?
No,
I'm writing down
because
my question.
he had a train of thought, and he's being interrupted. So.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Right. So the question is, for Nonfon, a fetus is discovered to be immune to cancer and incredibly valuable to oncology research. The longer the fetus turned person lives, the more information we can find for a cure over the course of his/her life. The mother wants an abortion, though. Would you allow her to abort this incredible opportunity?
I would say, I guess the utilitarian enemy would say,
one, right? It's a good one, right? Yeah.
Would say basically at that point we probably shouldn't allow it just from a utilitarian perspective, but that's because of the value that the fetus serves to other moral subjects. It's not because the fetus is a moral subject itself. Yeah, okay. I would say basically. The woman would probably have to give up some bodily autonomy there, but that kind of sucks because the trade-off is so worth it.
Okay, so David, you can follow on that train of thought, or I'll give you, David, an opportunity to follow on that train of thought before you go back to your original point.
No, I don't want any interaction from chat or boss.
Okay, go ahead, Nonfon, continue where you left off.
Okay. So with your view that I guess unique human organisms are removing a unique human organism, terminating pregnancy is murder. Do you believe that a miscarriage is also the end of a life of a unique human organism as well?
Yeah, I do. I do believe that, yes.
So do you believe that there should be laws, for instance, saying that after you have sex for a certain amount of time, you shouldn't drink or you shouldn't do things that could increase the chance of a miscarriage because this would be protecting human life that you seem to care about?
Yeah, so that's a great question. One that I predicted that may come up. And so basically, in my view, is that all miscarriages, assuming that, so some people don't even know they have them, right? So if you don't know something, then obviously you can't really, there's not really much you can do about it. But I do believe that all miscarriages should be investigated. And if they find out that it was a homicide or some sort of manslaughter or the mother did something that she shouldn't have done, there should be some sort of penalty for something like that. Yeah. Maybe not the death penalty, right? Now we're not going to go straight to the, Charles Manson type stuff because she drinking and driving, for example, like I don't necessarily, if you kill somebody, I don't necessarily see that as murder. In the same respect that I would if you pulled up a gun and shot somebody. Like there would be a different terminology.
So I guess there'd be two things. So we do have laws, for example, against drunk driving because that increases the risk of killing someone while you're drunk driving. I would say, would you be in favor of a law that says after a woman has sex for a certain number of months or weeks before you know for sure if you're pregnant or not, that you should not be allowed to drink or lift heavy objects or eat sushi because of the potential risk that this poses to a unique human life?
So I'm not going to be all authoritarian in this way, but yes, I would assume that this would make sense. I think we'd have to hammer out some of the details of something like that to make it so we still have our own freedom to do certain, like you said. So I don't know if there has to be a confirmed pregnancy at a certain point. But yeah, of course, I would support anything that I would be against anything that's going to damage the baby or the possibility of carrying this to term. So, yeah.
All right. So that's an interesting take.
Yeah. I mean,
Another
if we had
thing you
an ability to
mentioned.
do that,
So you think
if we had a way to do
police
that, then yes, of course.
police resources, government, taxpayer, police resources, and money should go towards one, creating these laws that say after a woman has sex, we are going to take away so much of her bodily autonomy that she can't lift heavy objects, she can't drink, she can't lift heavy, or I think I said lift heavy objects already, which all increase the risk of miscarriage. And if there is a miscarriage, it should be investigated to see if she did any of these things that increase the risk of a miscarriage, and if she did, potentially charge her with manslaughter.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that like she would be banned from doing these things, just like it's impossible to ban somebody from drinking and driving. But I would say that if you are found guilty of doing this and that leads to this, then yes, you would have some sort of penalty or punishment for that. But just to say that all women who had sex within the last week can't drink alcohol, like to me, that's very extreme. I don't think I would support that, even though I would suggest that we have public service announcements like, hey, if you're found to have a miscarriage due to smoking or I don't know if smoking whatever causes miscarriages, then you can and will be prosecuted at the full extent of the law for some sort of at least malpractice, whatever they would call that, a misdemeanor or something probably. I think that would be a good thing to tell people, and people already know this, right? You should not do this while pregnant, right? Or this could lead to, like we already kind of do that, but then what you're suggesting is we would take that to the next, or I guess what I'm suggesting is take that to the next level and say, if you are found guilty of this, there will be a punishment. I have no problem with that.
Well, you said like we can't ban people from drunk driving. I mean, we can't, but technically,
right.
I mean, that's what we do. We have laws against drunk driving. We try to ban people from drunk driving.
When you get caught, yeah. When you get caught,
sure.
There's punishment, yeah.
So what I'm asking is, if a woman has sex, should there be a law that says you can't drink for a few weeks or days after sex until you can confirm whether or not that you're pregnant? And if she does, and then she miscarries, she should be criminally prosecuted and arrested or charged with manslaughter for drinking while being possibly pregnant.
Drinking while pregnant, yeah. No, that's kind of funny. I don't think there should be any law as far as you have to have a pregnancy test in order to have a drink or something like that, for example.
But why not? Why are you willing to accept that potential risk to a unique human organism that you seem to care about so much?
So to me, a potential risk for a potential human organism or whatever is completely different than the intentional removal and death of that being. That's to me two different things.
Sure, it's different, and that's why I said like we would charge you with manslaughter, but the reason we have drunk driving laws is because it increases the risk of killing innocent people. Shouldn't we apply the same logic to something like this, where we say drinking after being pregnant or eating fish, lifting heavy objects, all these things that can that pose a risk to a potential human life, or to a unique human organism? Shouldn't we try to protect that? Shouldn't we be taking away a woman's bodily autonomy to protect that, just like the government takes away my bodily autonomy to drink and drive to protect other people's lives?
No, I don't necessarily think drinking and driving should necessarily be in the same conversation as intentionally removing a life form or whatever.
Well, again, I'm not talking about intentionally removing a life form. I'm talking about a woman drinking after having sex and that causing a miscarriage. The reason we ban drunk driving is because it increases the risk when you're drunk driving that innocent people will be harmed, that innocent, unique human organisms will be harmed. In the same way, a woman drinking after having sex, and she doesn't know if she's pregnant or not, increases the risk that a unique human organism will be harmed. So, would you take away women's bodily autonomy to drink after having sex if it protected the unique human organism?
No.
No? Why not?
No, I've already explained this. I don't think that we should take the risk factor into creating some sort of legislation or law. I would say if it happens, this is going to be the punishment. You can enter this whole thing at your own risk, right? I don't think every single drinking and driving situation a person gets in there, whatever, ends. I don't think the result of that is always the intentional ending of another life. It can happen, right? It doesn't happen every single time. Drinking and pregnant or smoking and pregnant or whatever people do when they're pregnant doesn't always end in the intention. Like it doesn't always end the life of the baby. It can cause a miscarriage. It's not suggested, but it's not every single time. An abortion,
Yeah.
I would say
Well-
that's different because that ends the life every single time.
Well, the analogy I'm drawing here is not to abortion; it's to drunk driving. Drunk driving increases the risk that innocent people will be harmed in the same way that drinking after having sex increases the risk that a zygote will be harmed as well.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't
you
suggest
said
it.
you
Like, I
said
think
that
the risk is not worth
miscarriages
it.
should be investigated, and that there would be a potential punishment for women who were found guilty of doing something that increased the risk of miscarriage. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
So that would require a law that says women after having sex shouldn't be able to drink for a certain number of days until they find out that they're pregnant. The only way that the punishment can exist is if we write a law that says that.
I don't think so. No,
What do you mean you don't think so? Do you think the government can prosecute somebody on something that isn't a law?
No, I think the government could prosecute something based on if they had proof that drinking is what caused it, which I think would be super hard to prove. We don't have this technology at this point, or we don't have certain things to say this is literally what caused it or not. I don't think we have that.
But I'm saying in order for the government to be able to prosecute somebody on that, like if this hypothetical technology existed, the government would have to have a law saying that woman can't drink after being pregnant for a certain number of days.
I don't think we would have to have that law.
So the government is prosecuting people on a law that doesn't exist?
No, the government would be prosecuting people based on if something happens, trying to get to the bottom of why it happened.
Based on if something happens, they're prosecuting you based on breaking the law being a miscarriage, a potential homicide, right? But wouldn't that would require laws to be against that potential homicide? That's what I'm saying. We would have to write a law saying any miscarriage should be investigated, and if the woman is found to do these things that increase the risk of miscarriages, we should criminally prosecute them.
Yeah, I suppose you could try to have a list of things, but I'm sure there's many things that we don't even know about today that cause miscarriages that wouldn't be on that list, right? But then we find out next week, well, maybe you shouldn't take the COVID vaccine. That raises the chances of miscarriage. I mean, this could be insane how crazy that would be. I would support investigating miscarriages. I don't necessarily have the answers. I'm not a lawmaker on how that would look, what the law would look like specifically, but I don't think that they would go to everybody who has sex can't drink alcohol, like women. I don't think that makes sense.
Well,
maybe it could be everybody who is pregnant, right? If you knowingly are pregnant, because some people don't know right away, then maybe you could do that. But then you have to prove intent, and that's fine. We could go down the route of trying to prove that they knew they were pregnant when they went to the bar, or the bar, you could tell she's 9 months pregnant and they're still feeding her drinks. I could see some sort of law around whether that should be acceptable or not. You know, I mean, so
sure, but what I'm saying is drinking while pregnant.
Create the law. I don't. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just asking, drinking while pregnant, or while you don't know you're pregnant after you had sex, does increase the risk that a unique human organism, which is what you told me you care about, will be harmed.
Right.
But you're not in favor of a law that
prevents
people from drinking after sex because you don't think it's worth it to take away that risk in exchange for a woman's bodily autonomy.
I think in the discussion we're having, a lot of what I'm talking about has to do with intent. So, for example, should all miscarriages be investigated? That would be to find out if there was intent here. If there was no intent and it was accidental or some sort of defect with the unborn or whatever, I don't think that there should be any prosecution for that. It would all be about intent, and I don't think you could just because a woman's a week pregnant and she drinks alcohol and she doesn't know she's pregnant, I don't think you're going to be able to prove any intent there. But I do agree in principle that would not be good, and I'm against that. If my wife got pregnant, I would try to, like, I don't want you to harm the child or have potential harm, and I think she would agree, and then we would work through that together. I don't know what kind of laws that would be passed. If there's something that makes sense, then I would be definitely willing to entertain it and read through it and see if it makes sense for what my views are, I guess. But
okay, well, I was just like, don't you think it would at least be like manslaughter if a woman was drinking? Well, she didn't know that she was pregnant and it ended up causing a miscarriage. Wouldn't that be manslaughter to you?
It could be. Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay, so this would require, but you're not in favor of a law preventing this manslaughter. You're not in favor of a law saying that women can't drink after potentially after having
I'm not-
sex.
In general, even outside the abortion debate, I'm not a huge favor of having laws to prevent people from doing certain things. I'm more in favor of having laws
Sure.
as a result of certain things.
So in this case, what you're saying is the individual's bodily autonomy outweighs the right to life of this unique human organism that you seemingly care about.
Say that again. Sorry.
What you're saying is that in this case, the individual's bodily autonomy outweighs the right to life of this unique human organism.
In what I'm saying is yes, but they would also have to not know they're pregnant.
Okay.
Like, I don't think we can, if we don't know something, we don't know it. And I don't think we can prevent a future, in this case, like, yeah, if she knows she's pregnant, I would be supporting of a law. If she doesn't know she's pregnant, I don't know what you could do about that, but.
Okay. Well, that's the end of my questions.
All right, boys and girls. Right, so chat, you have your go. Ask any questions that you potentially have to the using obviously your channel points or whatever, because we don't really have anything else to ask. So unless you guys ask something ahead of time, we're just going to be asking the judges to add the bonus points onto that, considering that both of the opponents have pretty much reached.
Wait, no, I didn't.
No,
I didn't
you're not
think
finished.
No, I have other stuff.
You have other stuff.
I was just.
Do you want to
asking
take a
about
break?
the-
Do you want to take a break? Go and get some water.
I'm fine. I got water.
I'm good too.
Water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a Mountain Dew.
we're gonna take a break anyway. We're for water, yeah, because I
Rigged,
need to
rigged.
catch up
Got
with
some
the
water.
judges and everything.
I'm gonna go get a beer.
Yeah, go and get a beer. Obviously, it can't be on stream. It's a non-alcoholic beer.
I'm kidding. I don't drink.
Yeah. Okay, right. So participants, go. You got a 5-minute break. Go and do whatever you need to do, and I'm gonna have a little chat with the judges. And you can't be present for this, so you can't be listening.
Okay.
So can
I'm
we keep
going
going or no? Can I
No,
go?
I don't think we're not doing a break.
No, it's just for the break. It's a 5-minute
All right.
break, David. I'm gonna
All right,
deafen both
I'm
of
gonna
you.
keep going. All right, I'm gonna keep going.
All right, you talk
All
to
right.
yourself.
So wait, no, I was gonna ask him.
Yeah, but no,
we'll keep going after the break.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a brawl with the judges, but apart from that, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Ready for what?
Oh, for the debate, David. You had
And
points.
David, yeah, you
This
said you wanted to
guy
extend it.
This guy.
Yeah. No, I
Go
do. I
ahead.
just have a brief segment. I just got to go grab some water real quick.
You had
Okay.
5 minutes to grab one.
He's such a piece of shit. He's such a piece of shit, and he loves it. He loves being a piece of shit.
No, for real. I just ran out of water while I was waiting for you. Whatever you're doing.
So you just drank water. You'll be fine.
Get on with it. You,
Aren't you just
Fucking-
playing a video?
yeah.
I was just playing it. Did you see the video? It was a great video.
No, I thought that was the
Okay,
point.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Okay,
Video.
I was just curious.
Tomato soup.
Let's see. When does brain function begin? Do we know that?
Brain.
Or does
What
that
exactly
matter?
do you mean by brain function?
Like in the pregnancy. Does that matter, or it may not matter to you?
Brain function itself, just brain function anywhere, it doesn't matter to me because I mean worms have brain function. I don't consider them moral subjects just because they have 300 neurons. What matters to me is basically when we start seeing brain function at like the higher cortexes, which are responsible for some type of conscious experience, and that begins at like 22 weeks.
Okay, so heart function, that doesn't matter. Like when that happens.
No, not at all. I don't think heart function matters at all. I think clearly that if you took someone and put their brain in one robot and a heart in another robot, we would say the person that has their brain in the robot is still the same person, whereas the robot is just a robot with somebody's heart. Also, you can take someone's heart out and replace it with a mechanical heart. I don't think that makes them a moral object. They're clearly conscious. Clearly, they still deserve moral rights just because they have a bionic heart. I don't think that matters. I don't think a heart matters at all. No.
What the fuck is Stella? Oh, because the ads. Is that what's going on? Fuck you in here for, Stella. Anyway,
What are the
about-
ads going on? What's wrong with the ads?
what about the
Ads are good.
Does it matter when the fetus can feel pain?
Pain is a perceived thing. So in order to feel pain, you have to be conscious, right?
Okay.
So
do you? Okay. Hey, there we go. We finally got one. Okay. So do you know when the fetus can begin to feel pain?
So again, pain is a perceived thing. In order to feel pain, there has to be something to feel it. So you have to be conscious. The reason some studies will say like fetuses feel pain at 12 weeks is because they can have response to stimuli. But I would never say that response to like painful stimuli means that there is something there actually feeling the pain. Think about a fish, for example. If I pull a fish out of the water, it'll flop around. It'll look like it's in pain. If I stab it, it'll react to it. But we know that fishes don't have the higher cortexes necessary to conscious. So while it might be looking like it's in pain, there's no subject to actually experience that pain. It'd be just like if I programmed a robot to respond to me pricking it with a needle. It may have responses to that, but there is no subject there to actually experience the pain.
Okay. So, I'm just going off of an article here, and I can share all my sources. I actually really haven't quoted a lot, which I thought I was going to need to do more, but you're kind of on a whole different level than what I thought you would have been on. That's why I came to you the other day and said, what is your 22-week argument? You didn't want to share it with me, so that way I wouldn't have wasted 2 hours looking at all this crap, anyway. So, so some scientists, right, in the medical community, claim the developing baby cannot feel physical pain until after the basically 24th week, which is 6 months. But other scientists say it's possible for a fetus to feel pain as nearly as 12 weeks. That's what you're referring to, right? But the problem here that you were claiming is the disagreement. It says centers around certain parts of the brain. Also uncertainty of the definition of pain itself. Can a fetus feel pain if it's not conscious? That's what you're referring to.
My disagreement is pain is a feeling that implies there has to be a subject there to feel it. There has to be a subject to experience it. Right. It's a perceived thing in consciousness, just like temperature is a perceived thing in consciousness.
Okay. Does it matter if, hypothetically, if they can feel pain and they're aware of it, just like you and I would be if we got stabbed in the back of the neck or something? Does that matter?
Pain alone? No. Like we could come up with hypothetical. I'm pretty sure. I think it's called SEPA. There are people with congenital insensitivity to pain, I think it's called, that can't really feel pain. I would never say just because they can't feel pain itself doesn't mean that they're not a moral subject. Clearly, the thing that matters is the consciousness that they have. They can still be morally wronged even if they can't feel pain itself.
Okay. So you don't think that a fetus is conscious before 22 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not in a consciousness, obviously a spectrum. I would say 22 weeks is when they start seeing a more, I guess, a unique type of human consciousness that is greater than the supposed consciousness of like lower level creatures. Yeah.
Okay. But assuming that one day they prove somehow, I don't know how they would do it, that consciousness is at 12 weeks, you would be willing to move your line.
If they were able to prove that, sure. But I think all the evidence right now supports the fact that can't happen. But I mean, if you were able to prove that consciousness starts at an earlier point, then sure, I would move that line. But I think it's abundantly apparent that a zygote can't be conscious because a zygote doesn't have a brain at all. So clearly, somewhere in the development from no brain to brain, there has to be some formation of a conscious experience. I think the earliest that can really happen is 22 weeks with all the data we have available.
Okay. So this article I'm reading through, it's on WebMD. I don't know if we trust this site or not. I don't trust anything for the most part, but it says until the late 1980s, the medical community believed that newborns couldn't feel pain since their brains aren't fully developed. Today, the position of major medical organizations, including the American College of whatever, gynecologists and all these people, have now acknowledged that it's about 24 to 25 weeks into gestation. So it seems to be at some point, maybe it was even an after birth, they claim, because their brains aren't fully I think maybe it's also talking about anyway, the point is, I guess, that if that line can be moved, you'd be willing to move your line. That's all I'm asking about, I guess. I
mean, I guess, yeah, but again, you're citing pain, right, which pain is a perceived thing in consciousness. So
sure. Yeah. It's not perceived when you get stabbed. That definitely.
No, the feeling of pain is a perceived thing in your conscious experience.
So, All right. Well, I think that was kind of where I was going with the brain function, heart function, pain function, breathing. Obviously, they don't breathe until they come out of the womb. We all know
Sure.
that. But
I don't think breathing matters at all either. Just because if we had a person on a ventilator without lungs, or if we had a person that breathed through their skin, they would obviously still be a moral
Right.
subject.
Right. Okay. You think abortion's racist?
What are you just going to say because black people have more have more abortions? No, I don't think it's racist.
Well, non-white people. I don't, not specifically black people, just non-white. 67% non-white.
No, I don't think it's racist because I don't think
I'm kind of just joking. So sentience doesn't matter to you?
sentience. I wouldn't necessarily. It depends on your definition of sentience. That
Hold on.
I would say what really matters is the capacity for a conscious experience. Just like a person under anesthesia might not necessarily have sentience, but they nonetheless still have the capacity for a conscious experience.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, feeling or sensation, which is different from perception and thought. All right. That was sentience. Whatever. Okay. Well, the rest of my stuff was just in some sort of response if you had a question, but I'm not going to bring it up if you don't have a question.
I don't have any more now.
So.
All right, debaters. We're just going to give the chat another 5 minutes to post any questions that they potentially have. This is their last chance to do so. Direct question. Lanius, you can use the timed question, brother. That's my mistake.
Do you make people donate for questions? You should be milking it. You make people donate.
Yeah, they're going to be donating in the future, but we're way too poor right now, so they can use.
That's valid. That's valid.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's valid.
Okay. So Lanius, what is your question, brother? You need to let us know what your question is. I will redeem your points. 1 second. I will redeem your points, and then you can use it again. Instead of direct question, you want to use timed question this time, considering it's at the end of the debate, and then you can. Here you go. So you're refunded. You got your points back. Just go ahead and use the timed question and enter your question. Boss, vary that question however you'd like. Feel free to play around with it. Wait, I didn't get the question.
I'd rather boss not play
shit.
around with
Okay,
anything.
all right. Okay, so yeah, but he's the one paying, so I'm going to do it. All right, so the question is to David. If abortion is murder from your worldview, is there any possibility for certain abortions to be classified as a hate crime?
That's it?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple, straightforward question.
I guess the question for me would be whether hate crimes are legitimate or not. But I guess if there's some sort of proof that the person had a abortion, like, I guess if the doctor's killing the baby intentionally because it was a certain race or something, then I guess based on current law, I don't know if that, I assume that'd be a hate crime. I don't know. I mean, but I doubt they would be doing that. The mother is usually requesting this procedure. So I doubt it would be racially motivated, but could be. I guess.
Okay, so the terminology or the definition would be a hate crime is a crime where a perpetrator targets a victim because of their physical appearance or perceived membership of a certain social group. So in other words, it would be perceived as, well, you could consider it like racism or whatever, like based on race and ethnicity or their beliefs and ideologies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is an argument that I didn't bring up because it didn't really get brought up, but where people are purposely having abortions because of Down syndrome or something like that. Like, I think this is completely wrong. I think that specifically putting abortion clinics in certain parts of the neighborhood or certain parts of the town where it's primarily, minority, whatever people live there, I think this is completely wrong. I think this is intentional as well. And that's where I was kind of going down, even though I was kind of joking when I said, is abortion racist? I think it definitely can be, for sure.
Okay. I'm not going to debate you. Obviously, I'm not the host. I am the host. What I am going to say, though, is considering that as far as you're concerned, as long as the woman does not acknowledge whether or not she has a baby inside of her, or what you would characterize as a baby, other people could characterize as cells or a fetus or a zygote or whatever the other terminology, depending on the time period. As long as you, well, considering that you conceded earlier that as long as there's no acknowledgement of the fetus being there, then, well, what if she was put to sleep and it was performed on her while she was asleep? And now she has no acknowledgement of it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to answer your question, but I was going to bring up about if the woman went to an abortion clinic and the baby was half black, right? Let's say she, whatever, and she said that she wanted to have an abortion because she didn't want a multiracial baby. I could see an argument there for a hate crime. If that clarifies things.
Yeah, I'm not the one asking questions. That's Lanius's questions. Honestly, I don't really have any specific questions relating to that. And considering that David just refuses to engage with my questions, I don't know. I'll go ahead and ask another one, but I don't know if he's gonna.
Well, why? I'm not debating you.
Yeah, but I was told by the chat to phrase it. Anyway, all right. We're going to ask some trivia questions to close it off. We're going to give 2 trivia questions. Starting with David. If he answers correctly, then we'll give Nonfon the second question. If he answers incorrectly, then we'll go to Nonfon. And then after that, we will add the bonus points. A single trivia question. Sorry if I said that wrong. 1 second. Let me pull this up. Chat, last chance. If you've got any questions, you need to ask them right now. Okay, so first question for David is, good luck. What Andrew Lloyd Webber Broadway show features the characters Mr. Feelies and Old Deuteronomy?
Cats.
I'm going to ask how the fuck you know that. What the fuck, David?
That was right.
Shit.
I have no idea.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck? How the fuck do you know that? Holy shit. Okay, I guess.
This is rigged.
Who else?
What the hell?
Mr. Feelies. That's Mr. Feelies sounds like a cat name.
Jesus Christ. All right. Okay,
I got cats.
so
that's why.
On average, Nonfon, which grows faster? Fingernails or toenails?
Fingernails.
Best. All right, so that's 1 point for Nonfon, 1 point for David. Now,
that was easy.
Judge. Apparently, the other question was easy for you as well. Jesus Christ, I don't even want to. Wait. Okay, so we've got another question. To Nonfon. All right. Now that we have established that reproductive rights are conditional, given the cancer example, what other scenarios would you force a woman to give birth?
I don't. The cancer example is such like just an extreme utilitarian cause. I guess like the analogous situation to the cancer thing is like a woman holding hostage someone who has the cure to cancer. I couldn't think of any. I don't think I could ever think of a real life example, but there would be cases where like there's such an extreme good that the cost of the bodily autonomy to the woman would be worth forcing her to carry the baby to term for the cure to cancer or something. It would have to be something extreme. It would have to be ending slavery or curing cancer or curing malaria. Something really extreme that could never happen. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Awesome. No, you can't. Okay. You guys can do whatever the fuck you want. Fuck up, Captain. You're not supposed to tell us. Right. Judges, add your 2 bonus points. What do you mean last question? There is no other question.
Wait. Can we talk about bodily autonomy or no?
What do you mean bodily autonomy?
Well,
David,
based on something
we ran through this, bro.
We already went through it.
We did go through it with all the miscarriage things.
Now that we've established the reproductive right, okay,
that
maybe
was the bodily autonomy one.
Okay, I don't really think there's any more questions. I can't see it, Lanius, if there is. Boss, very that question how you'd like. Okay, yeah, that's it. All right. Okay, so judges.
I'll cover it in my closing statement.
Yeah, we're just gonna sum up the positions. We're gonna get the scores from the judges, David, if that's okay with you, obviously. Why is your chat full of brain rot? I don't know, brother. I don't know. Okay.
Are they already done with the scores?
Yes, they are done with the scores. That is their job. Their job is to judge and score accordingly, David. Thank you. Thank you for the non-answers, the stupid questions. All right. Okay. What is it, Stella? What do you want? Okay, right. We're going to, judges come in here. Stay quiet. You know the process.
So no closing statement.
You will have closing statements, bro. What do you mean? Closing statements? What is closing statement? You've apparently talked about everything there was to talk about. Hence why we ended the debate.
Hey! Where are the cool bonus questions?
Yeah, where's the?
We did those already.
I'm gonna kill these motherfuckers. Right,
we literally did that.
Fucking muted right now. Shut the fuck up, the lot of you. You drive me fucking mental. Right. So, David and Nonfon reached the point where they said, we've run out of questions. We have nothing else to discuss here. At which point, I then asked the trivia questions and any other questions that the chat asked through the redemption of their points. Then you add on the bonus points, and we are done here. You give us the scores accordingly. You tell us who it is that you decided wins. For what side, and we'll move on. You will go from accordingly. So pro-abortion, so you will rate for non-fon first, and then you will give us the second score for the pro-abortion. Sorry, yeah, for pro-abortion first, anti-abortion second. Okay, so you're all unmuted. Who's going to start? Is there any of you three ready? Which one of you three is ready? You're ready. Okay, yes. Go ahead, Everflow. Give us your...
My score was 48-40.
48-40. So that is for pro-abortion. Non-fon. That is 1-0. Why can nobody see the fucking thing? Okay, that's fine. All right, awesome. So that's 1-0. Now, anybody else? Stella? Zen, who's ready? Neither of them are talking. This is great. I love my judges.
Oh, you fucking muted me, you piece of shit.
Yeah, I didn't fucking mute you. Just fuck up and answer. 48-40, yeah.
So the score that I ended up with was 30-11 in favor of non-fon.
Wait, what was it?
30-11.
30-11. And last but not least, Xen.
I have 21-41.
Okay, so by verdict of split decision, the victory goes to Nonfon. Congratulations, Nonfon.
Wait, why?
Because it's split decision, Xen.
So why don't we use some other measurement to measure it except your fucking dumbass opinion?
Okay, it's not my dumbass opinion. It's 2 out of 1. It's 3 judges. 2 voted in favor of Nonfon, 1 in favor of David.
Yeah, but like fucking Everflow had 8 points different, so he's basically neutral, right?
Majority?
Okay, Xen, you realize you're just waffling at this point and making a fucking fool of yourself, right? Let me just get a confirmation of that. No?
He's
all right. Okay, just stay quiet then, please. Thank you. Right, congratulations, debaters. You've done I like the debate. We are going to have a couple of minutes of the judges and the debaters asking any questions to the judges, why they ruled in the certain way that they ruled. And just like hash it out, boys. So
I don't think I have anything.
Debaters, you can engage with the judges. Judges, you can engage with the debaters as you wish. Nobody hasn't. What? Yeah.
Fuck up. I came in fairly moderate. I would say I was even earlier in the abortion cutoff, and even I was swayed more towards Nonfon's position. 22 weeks, 22 weeks from the things that he brought up and the facts that he brought that weren't really disputed in any way. That you kind of laid down for some of the arguments. I just think he was better prepared for the debate.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
So yeah, did you both like it? Did you have a good time?
He still would have lost in the NATO debate.
So then, even if we rule according to the scoreboard, it still goes to non-fun. So I hope you that will make you sleep.
Give me the points. Give me the point.
Fuck my life.
Because that sounds fucking retarded based on the points I just heard out loud. It's kind of suspicious that you're not writing it on the screen. Calculate it then.
I mean, bro, 48 to 40, Xen. 30 to 11. 21 to 41.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me fucking calculate this shit. Say it again. Say it again.
Zen, it doesn't matter, bro.
I'm just curious what the actual score is because he's retarded.
Yeah, it's 99 to 92. Nobody's fucking retarded here apart from you, Xen. He won non-fun by split decision and according to the scores. Shut the fuck up. You're a fucking moron. Jesus Christ.
You need to count the fucking points.
No shit, Sherlock. It's right there. I literally showed it on fucking screen. You fucking imbecile. You waste of space to humanity.
Why don't you put it in like that? Retard. Use the actual numbers on your screen and not some dirty piece of paper you use.
You'll post the results in the results channel, won't you too? Don't you have that?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Results channel.
Right. Okay. So
I'll see you later.
Right. So first. Right, so we need to go through it again, do we? For Xen. All right, okay. So 48-40. Does that sound correct?
99
Everflow. You're the one who gave me the score. 48-40. Yes. Does that sound correct? Amazing. Yes, next one. 30-11. Does that sound correct?
Bit harsh, but yes.
Who was the second one who gave me the scores? 30-11. That sounds correct. Does it? And Zen, let me guess. 21-41, right?
Guys, my math is 99-92.
Apparently, his fucking numbers get mixed up now that he needs to confront fucking reality.
Wait, whose numbers got mixed up?
21-41, correct?
Who are you asking? Me?
You. 21-41. Yeah. Amazing. Now add those numbers up, you fucking imbecile. Jesus Christ. Thank you for wasting our fucking time.
I literally left my room.
I'm okay, great.
Oh
Congratulations. God. Congratulations. There you go. Right. All right. Thank you, competitors. Right. So my ending comments, seen as the fucking judges are like too much wet bags to fucking say it. I have to do it as the host. I feel like non-fun. Actually, do I need to do this now as the fucking host?
No, you don't.
I don't.
No, the host has to be neutral. Clearly, yeah.
You can butter his bread.
Do I have to be? Do I have to be biased? Do I non-fun?
No, you have to be really neutral as a host.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't resist. So fine. All right. Okay.
You can just tell in my chat later.
The judges and the debaters don't have anything to say.
No, I do.
What do you? Okay, closing statements. No, apart from closing statements and like shout outs, David. Like towards the judges.
Shout outs. I don't want to shout out anybody.
Oh my god!
Shout out judges.
Shout out to my mother.
All right, fine.
I would like to shout out myself, Nonfon420 on Twitch.
Shout out to Nonfon.
Okay, yeah. Give us your closing statements, boys. Go on, debaters. Start. Go. Non-fun.
Okay, well, during the debate,
statement.
I got proved two things throughout all the hypotheticals we gave. One, consciousness is the only reasonable thing that can separate a moral subject from a moral object. I think all the hypotheticals we ran through, my conclusion was way more reasonable. Two, I don't think David has a comprehensive view of what separates a moral subject from a moral object, which I think he demonstrated during all the hypotheticals we ran through, despite this being the main issue around the abortion discussion. During the debate, David claimed a unique human organism is what grants something moral value, but then later, when pressed, he admitted he would save a 3-year-old rather than 10 human embryos because a 3-year-old had higher moral worth. David also admitted that at least in the one specific case that we discussed, the individual's right to bodily autonomy and privacy outweighed the potential risk to the right of a life of a zygote if the mother was, for example, drinking, and the law surrounding that when we ran through that hypothetical. And clearly, I've demonstrated those 2 points.
All right. And David?
Wow. Jeez, he did not give my position a fair shake there. But no, the only thing I was going to say in closing was kind of what I started with, which was anything that anybody ever wants to judge as far as when consciousness starts, when sentience starts, when aware, all this stuff. It's ever changing. Science changes regularly. Within the last 20 years, it's completely different than what it was 20 years ago, different than what it is today. And so trying to create some sort of like, 22 weeks is my stance is just a bunch of garbage. It's you're standing on shaky ground, whatever you want to call it. There's just nothing there. There's nothing structurally to stand on there. He didn't prove anything other than he has some number in his head that he likes. A 22 weeks sounds good, or he read a paper one time that said 22 weeks. It's a cowardly stance, in my opinion. So
Chat vote. Yeah.
the only logical thing is to either say right when the situation happens, the egg and the sperm, or let's just go all the way to birth. That's the only two consistent logical stances. Some arbitrary number in between. The pro-abortion people can't even figure out what number they want to do. The one guy said 12 weeks earlier when we were chatting. Now he's like, I'm convinced it's now 22. Really? But then I said, well, what if it was 12? Would you change that? Yeah, I would change on a whim. Really? I mean, that's all 22
On a whim?
is a whim. Come on.
Did I say on a whim?
Come on.
On a whim,
I mean,
based on newly presented scientific evidence, that's a
Based
whim.
on it.
That's a whim for you.
Right. And then 20 years from now, it's going to be different. It's always changing. Who knows, man? Who knows? It's a bunch of garbage.
The score has decided, David. Obviously, abortion should be legal, and pro-abortion is the right side to have in life.
Did your chat vote as well?
Yeah.
There you go. There you
Right,
go. You decided it.
Chat's voted.
Chat is
I told you the
50-50.
judge's scorecard
Chat-
doesn't
chat
matter.
is
It
voted.
is 60-40 now. Chat, change your retard.
Okay, so chat thinks.
Chat thinks David won. Fuck you.
Chat thinks
Damn.
David won.
Damn.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense because everybody's fucking unhinged. Just PT Salty.
Yeah, everyone is
Fucking Lanius,
except you.
all of them are fucking anti-aborted, fucking religious, traditionalist motherfuckers. Shang is a fucking
that's the only reason,
authoritarian.
idiot.
Lanius is just like simping for Xen at this point. Salty literally wasn't even present the whole fucking time, just came to like shit on anybody who's against David, apparently. These fucking traditionalist motherfuckers. Nonfon, you did a phenomenal job. I don't give a fuck about being biased. Fuck these motherfuckers. Right.
You
I've
should
got-
be
Get his ass
neutral,
kicked
idiot.
in the NATO debate.
To be fair, I am. Yeah, good luck with that one. Fucking
Yeah,
after his performance
yeah,
today,
yeah,
you'll eat
I've got
shit
enough.
on that one.
I've got enough. I would shit on you too.
Okay. Oh, you want to be
Yeah,
careful.
He would,
with that
bro,
one.
he would.
yeah,
You
I
wanna be
would.
I'll tell you what, if Xen is the fucking judge, I mean,
Yeah, you're losing.
anything's possible. Anything's possible. I'm actually surprised that Nonfun won, considering that Xen is on the panel. But thank you again, debaters
I
and
have to say
judges.
something though.
Yeah, thank you.
Non-fun. At least you're
Mhm.
more reasonable than a Casey girl. There you go.
The Casey
Oh,
girl.
sick.
It's a guy. It's
Well,
a guy.
I'm
sounds
pretty
like a
sure
woman,
Casey
so
is a
shut
guy.
up.
It's a guy,
okay.
you moron.
No problem,
Okay.
no fun.
All right, nobody cares, Xen. Right, okay.
I mean, I like
yeah.
Casey, but
Yeah, well, I
Oh,
like
okay,
Casey
yeah.
too. Fuck you, Xen. Fucking degenerate motherfucker.
Gay?
Right,
What the fuck?
okay.
Want to fuck my ass?
No.
Yes.
Apparently, fucking a dominant woman is less gay than fucking a feminine boy.
No,
Sorry, is
wanting
more
to.
gay. Yeah, sorry,
Being
is more gay
physically
than fucking a
attracted
boy.
to.
Okay,
Being
fuck
physically
up, Xen.
attracted to.
Shut
Yeah.
up. Right, okay. So, closing shout outs,
We did
guys,
that.
and then we'll call it. Wait, you did shout outs? You gave your fucking things? All right.
yeah, I shout out. I'm
Thank you.
Nonfun420 on Twitch,
Right,
Nonfun on
David?
YouTube.
Okay, David, do you want to shout yourself out, brother?
Nope.
No, fuck you. All right. Thank you, debaters. Thank you, judges. Thank you, all you participants. You take that right back, you wanker. And yeah, thank you all for participating. Now,
Yeah, thank you.
fuck
I'm
outta
sure I'll do
here.
more in the future. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Nonfon. And David, you can continue giving yourself fucking blowjobs there, you wanker. All right.